out why. We're a country of innovators, a country that claims in everything from television programming to presidential platforms to love its children, a country proud of its flawed judicial system. And yet none of these cultural themes resound in child welfare. There's little innovation, love, or justice in foster care. It's a strange phenomenon, this foster care as other, as someone else's problem. Because foster care is intricately woven into so many facets of American society, it's an intimate partner to education and to poverty, to substance use and to mental health. It's tied to national issues like the deficit and unemployment and health care, and to our specific history with racism and class bias and power. A lawyer who has done litigation in foster care for decades once told me that foster kids are our country's canaries in the coal mine, and he's probably right. They're the most vulnerable members of society, and they reflect society's spikes in things like poverty and violence. If we were looking at foster care and foster kids, we could learn a lot. I wrote this book to look. I also wrote this book to ask, albeit at a slant, a very personal question and a very old one. I left my mother's house when I was 14 years old, and I never saw her again. I was also never put into foster care, though, like Alicia, I probably should have been. I imagine the adults around my child self gazing in the other direction, the way we all do with Alicia. Like most children, I didn't know exactly the way my family was different from other people's families, but I did have a sense that things weren't right. My father left when I was 8 years old, and my brother was 2. That left my mother, a wrung-out mass of hysteria, to take care of us. At first, my mother was sure we would starve to death. I counted cans in the cupboard and rationed our food. Then she said prostitution was her only solution, and the men started staggering in. She gave me a deadbolt for my bedroom door in 4th grade. She began staying out late, sometimes all night. Sometimes we had babysitters, and sometimes we didn't. I remember being afraid. My mother got a day job as well, and she said she loved us, but she also drifted into the corners of her own confusion, and we lost her far too often. She had headaches that would last for days, when she couldn't leave her room, and then she had so many men, with their work boots and their mustaches and their awful sweat smell, who took her away from us too. She often proffered vague suicidal threats when we visited my father. One Christmas, she promised she'd be dead by New Year's. Where was Child Protective Services during those years, from 2nd to 8th grade, before I left my mother's house for good? I lived in a mostly white neighborhood of detached single-family tract homes, the last stop on the commuter rail line from San Francisco. It was a neighborhood of scrubby front lawns and strip malls, the kind of area where kids are molested or neglected as much as any place else. But still, I wonder about the neighbors, who may have noticed that my mother's car would go missing all night long. Did they think about making a call? Or were they worried, like anyone, about the authorities nosing into their business? I didn't tell anyone about getting molested, but I wonder about the doctors who evaluated me for a mysterious illness that lit up my abdomen and wouldn't go away. I think about my teachers, who must have watched a girl who was manic about her stars and straight A's suddenly failing classes in middle school. But perhaps I look like dozens of other adolescents hitting bumps in a mediocre public school in a mediocre town. I think about my father, too, who says he never knew how bad things were because we never told him. And of course, I had a fierce interest in protecting whatever glossy sheen I could maintain.